Hi, everyone. This is Trini at RedF, and I will be reviewing our training section 7 video today on job placement and retention services. Before we get started, as you may have seen in the other videos, we do want to provide the disclaimer that this video is meant to supplement your agency's contracted scope of work by providing additional information to assist you in implementing the LA Rise program. So please do refer to your agency's EWDD or WEDAX contract, scope of work, and policy directives for contractual obligations and requirements. And any of those documents will always supersede any instruction in this video, as well as the accompanying program guide. In this video, we will review job development and placement, and then discuss some best practices. Then move on to retention services and cover that in the city program only, what is the referral process. Then review financial incentives, and then troubleshooting post placement. And before we get started, we also want to revisit the program goals. So on the left side, we have the program goals for the city program. On the right side, the program goals for the county expansion program. And specifically, the ones that pertain to today's video are the job placement goals and the goal on participants engaged in retention services. So while LA Rise participants are working towards completing their transitional subsidized employment at the social enterprise, they should be receiving job development support from the Worksource Center or AJCC that is partnered with the social enterprise. Ultimately, when the participant has completed their 300 hours of transitional employment and passed the JRA twice, they should be placed into competitive unsubsidized employment also by the partner Worksource Center and AJCC. And so some of the job development support services that the Worksource Center and AJCCs should be providing include co-case management, providing a needs assessment, resume and interview prep, job support, job search support, job clubs and job fairs, workshops such as financial literacy, career exploration and interview skills, access to vocational training and skill building, and support services such as interview, clothing, transportation support for work like bus tokens, and referral to childcare, etc. So some of the best practices that we've found in the LA Rise program, specifically pertaining to the job search, are search for opportunities that are in line with the candidate's individual employment plan and income needs. The Workforce Center and AJCC should take the lead on employer referrals. And if the social enterprise job developer has their own employer partners, they should support the job search efforts and keep the Workforce Center and AJCCs informed on all referrals. If the social enterprise, Workforce Center, or AJCC makes an employment referral, they must copy the other partners in the process and keep them informed. Specifically regarding job readiness, Workforce Centers and AJCCs should ensure that the candidate has passed the JRA with 2 scores of 3 or higher. If a job opportunity is time sensitive and the candidate has passed only one assessment, but the case managers feel that the participant is ready for the position that they're applying to, then they can refer them to the employment opportunity. Ideally, participants do pass the JRA twice, but if the participant is already showing promise, then then that's a great position for them to be in. And if the candidate does have any issues in the personal readiness section, the Social Enterprise and Workforce Center or AJCC should ensure that the proper referrals have been made to assist in resolving those issues. In regards to interview prep, the prep for different interview styles, the prep should be for different interview styles, including phone screenings with HR or a recruiter, one on one with a hiring manager or supervisor, and group style interviewing. It's also very helpful to have the candidates interview with someone in your agency that they are not familiar with to test their interview skills with an unfamiliar person. And candidates are also often used to being prepped to explain any past involvement in the criminal justice system. So it's very important that you also coach candidates for government jobs. It is best not to bring this up in the interview. For example, the question, "What is your background?" could also refer to employment history. You should also prep candidates to use and check their email to not miss out on any potential job opportunities. And in regards to the fair chance implementation, you should ensure that candidates with records know their rights under the fair chance employment guidelines. And also ensure that candidates who are rejected for employment based on their past involvement in the criminal justice system follow the appeals procedures when relevant. On to retention services. So before we get into retention services, I want to provide the reminder that in the city program, the PSPs or retention services are are provided by the either PSP agencies or the social enterprises themselves. While in the county expansion program, it is the AJCCs who are going to be providing retention services. So throughout this section, I will be referring to these agencies as the retention provider. So do keep in mind who that means in the context of either the city program or the county expansion program. So once the participant is placed into competitive employment, the retention provider facilitates wraparound resources and services to lay the foundation for upward mobility. That could mean helping people who are doing well figure out what the next step is, or addressing and preventing conflict like job loss, health needs, and legal setbacks. Job retention services are provided by the case managers or retention specialists for 1 year from the time of placement into competitive, unsubsidized employment based on the participant's needs. This case manager should be introduced to the participant before they finish their transitional employment, ideally about halfway through completion of transitional employment, but that ultimately is up to the social enterprise staff. Why LA Rise includes job retention services. So many graduates of social enterprises and other low income individuals find competitive jobs. However, unfortunately, only a fraction of those securing work remain steadily employed and advance in the labor market. A significant fraction of individuals similar to LA Rise participants are out of work again within 3 to 6 months, and most are unemployed again within less than 1 year. Some are fired, but the majority of these workers leave voluntarily, though most often it's due to personal and family reasons. And many of these reasons could have been prevented or kept from escalating. So LA Rise relies on the retention service providers to support social enterprise graduates to transition successfully into competitive employment and help them navigate the bumps in the road that often derail sustained employment. Resources offered by the retention providers are informed by promising practices and designed to address issues that can cause job loss, namely financial stress, workplace challenges, and insufficient peer support and role models. The retention providers are also committed to providing reemployment services aimed at helping anybody who does lose a job address the casual issues for that job loss, the causal issues for that job loss, and get back to work quickly. Retention providers should develop a menu of retention services offerings based on the needs of specific participants. So here we have an example table of retention services, and they're listed by category. So, in regards to reemployment services, a retention service provider can provide job search and career exploration. They can provide community building in the form of support groups, social outings, and networking events. They can provide training in the form of financial literacy and stress management. Perhaps these can be workshops or even one on one trainings. They can provide support services such as transportation support, personal emergency funds, and supporting, again, financial literacy so that participants can develop plans. Um, and then also service referrals, like referring to childcare providers, housing and health providers. And finally, employer support, um, like job shadowing and troubleshooting, which we will get into later on in this video. So, regarding communicating retention services, research has shown that um, communicating about retention services early on leads to higher rates of success. So, employment specialists and case managers should begin talking to a retention provider about retention providers and their services early on in case management meetings. Rev- References should include comments about the type of services offered, the name of the service provider, and a staff contact, and a plan for the facilitated introduction, ideally in the form of a joint meeting prior to the transition. And again, this is a process that only pertains to the city program, because in the city program, there are some social enterprises who are not providing retention services to their clients and thus have to refer externally to one of two retention service providers in the LA Rise program. And so, how the social enterprise staff should hand off participants to the retention provider is either hosting an orientation or meeting to present and discuss the retention services to participants. And these orientations may be provided in a group setting or in a one on one setting. Like we mentioned earlier, these introductions should take place at least 3 months prior to the client exiting the social enterprise, and ideally sooner. And also, before, 1 or 2 months before the client exits the social enterprise, the official referral to the retention provider should be made. The referral will be a conversation with the individual, and it will be their choice for the agencies that are referring to external retention providers such as Friends Outside and ARC. And then the SC case manager must fill out the retention services referral form and email that to the retention provider and CC the Workster Center so that they remain informed on which agency will be servicing the participant next. The social enterprise must also document the referral in the CalJobs generic application. There's a question specifically requesting this information. And then the retention provider will document the start of services as well once they are being provided in the generic application, and also write the first case note. In the case that the participant chooses to forego the retention services, This should also be noted both in the case notes and in the generic module. Now on to financial incentives. Financial incentives are provided by the retention provider to LA-RISE participants and in both the city program and the county program. So each participant can receive up to $400 to recognize employment milestones and encourage program participation. The incentive is broken down by milestone. So for each milestone, the participant will have to present their current pay stub to confirm their employment. For every incentive given out, the retention specialist or case worker must follow the following process. They must include a copy of the gift card or the check in the participant's file, have the participant sign and date the copy to confirm the amount they received, have the participant sign the LA-RISE Employment Retention Incentives Tracking Log, scan the pay stub and include a copy in the participant's file, and write a case note in CalJobs stating that the incentive was distributed. And then again in CalJobs, update the respective question in the generic application. Participants should be notified that they will need to attain their pay stub ahead of time as well, so that they can come prepared to receive their incentive. And they should also be coached on ways to secure a copy of their paycheck, which sometimes can be found online. Participants should not leave work or miss work without permission to turn in their pay stub at their retention provider, nor should they mail in a pay stub due to the sensitive information on them. However, participants may take a photo of their pay stub and send it to their case manager. This can also give the case manager time to make sure that they have the card on hand to give the participant when they show up for their appointment. This table breaks down the specific milestones and the appropriate amount that should be given. And you'll notice on the right column, the program requirement takes effect at the fourth milestone or incentive. So for their fourth incentive, they must not only show that they have been employed for 3 months, but also complete a program component. So this the program component is added at this point in the incentive schedule because it is presumed that the participant has now adjusted to their new competitive job and can make time to participate in the retention services that the retention provider offers. The specific program component that is offered for each participant is at the discretion of their case manager and should be tied to their personal goals. The program component can also be adjusted to take place outside of work hours for the convenience of the participant. The case manager has discretion over whether the program requirement has been satisfactorily met. So the retention services that count as a program component may include, but are not limited to, employment and reemployment coaching assistance as appropriate, referral to community resources, work-related peer support groups, career development and further education planning, mentoring or tutoring, leadership development, career advancement assistance, employment retention workshops such as navigating the world at work, managing employer expectations, mitigating on-the-job conflicts, time management, financial planning and literacy, and customer service. And finally, education advancement assistance. But again, please do note that retention services that count as the program component may be beyond this list. on to our guidelines for troubleshooting post-job placement. So anyone who receives any indication of a workplace issue um, needing troubleshooting should immediately communicate it with all the partners that are servicing the participant. So that includes the Workshare Center or HACC and the social enterprise staff. The guidelines that we want to provide are the retention service provider, social enterprise, Workshare Center, and HACC should all be kept informed and involved in decisions regarding how to proceed. The retention provider is intended to be the primary service provider post social enterprise and should therefore be interacting directly with a worker or employer. The last individual to have contact with the LARISE participant should be the individual who reaches out to engage the participant. The last individual to have contact with the employer should be the individual who engages the employer if necessary. Potentially relevant resources from all partners should be identified to assist in addressing the issue consistent with the plan crafted by the partnering agencies. Some key questions for each and all agencies to consider together are: is the employer involved? Who spoke to the employer and who holds a relationship with them? Who spoke with the worker most recently? Who had the most in-depth relationship with the worker? What resources are necessary? Who has access to those resources? Where is the worker most comfortable to meet to address these issues? Who communicates what to the LARISE participant? Who convenes the team if necessary? Is there other information that can be useful in preparing the client meeting? Who provides the necessary support and resources? And finally, who is responsible for documentation? I hope this video was helpful for those of you who will be providing job development services as well as retention services. And please make sure to check out the other training videos as well as the program guide, which will also cover these topics. And thank you for watching.